Welcome to Court Time with Crina Mustafa. On today's show, we'll talk some Portland Trail Blazers with Jelani Goodridge-Reid and ACP Finals with Sara Poraria. Court's in session. All right, I'm joined now by Jelani Goodridge-Reid, our NBA, NFL, everything expert. You're really tuned into a lot of sports.
I am. I can't lie. I love it all.
Yeah, and the one team you've been very tuned into this season have been the Portland Trail Blazers. Yes. And that's who we're going to talk about today because they're first in the Western Conference. They're 10-5 right now. They did lose to the Brooklyn Nets last night, but it was a close one. Yeah. So I just want to kind of get, also before we continue, I do have to mention Shaedon Sharpe's dunk on Yuta Watanabe last night.
Another one on Yuta. I feel bad for the guy, man. He's always getting dunked on. I do respect that he, is willing to go up, but yeah, it's tough.
It is tough. But anyways, back to the Portland Trail Blazers. They've had some good wins to start the season. Some wins over the Nuggets, the Suns. What is your kind of thoughts on their 10-5 start?
Yeah, no, they're a really good team. And I think coming into the season, people were looking at the Blazers and saying, Dame, he's still there, but they don't really have anything to give us,
Myself included.
Yeah, I just find like the NBA community wasn't really talking about Portland. And now they're seeing it. Portland's a really nice team, good roster construction. We see what Billups is doing. I like what he's doing in terms of the coaching. But you're looking at it, and they've always had a good backcourt. Even when they had Terry Stotts, for those years with CJ and Dame. Now you're seeing the emergence of Anthony Simons, right? I think that's playing a huge role in how they're playing this year. And when you're talking about, the backcourt, they've always had a lack of wing, power. Per se. So when you're looking at a guy like Jeremy Grant, right? He's been pulling through for them in a big way. He's been, doing on both ends of the floor, which they need. And like I said, back when they had Terry Stotts, they didn't have that wing that helped them, be better than other teams in the Western Conference. So now that you're having that guy, Grant's actually playing at a really high level, the level that we saw in Denver. We saw what happened to Detroit. Detroit didn't really work out, unfortunately for him. But Denver, he was a really nice piece. That's why he got that deal in Detroit to begin with. And now we're seeing what's happening with that. So if you're looking at the landscape of the NBA right now, there's only two teams where there are three guys averaging 20 plus. Okay, yeah. So that's the Sixers. And that's the Blazers with the three guys I mentioned, Simons, Dame, and Grant. So I think that's a huge reason for the success right now. I really like their group.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, like Jeremy Grant's been an amazing acquisition for them. And he's been getting it done on both sides of the court. Literally, Dame, Anthony, and Jeremy, all of them above 20 points per game, which is super important because now that they have some defensive support as well, you have the offense to back that up because, as we know, defense leads to offense. Yes. And you need offense because a lot of the teams I've seen, good defensive teams like the Raptors, for example, you can play defensively, play well defensively, but if you don't have the offense to back that up, you're not going to be winning games. You need guys who can get you that bucket, and obviously having Damian Lillard is going to be that guy for you. The Raptors need a guy like that, to be quite frank with you.
Come through, Dame, come through.
We've been spreading some Toronto Raptors propaganda all day today on 3 in the Key, which you guys could check that out too. But what are the expectations for this team? Because they've started out well. I still feel like there's been some close games that maybe they should have won, or even some close wins that maybe you don't feel too great about. Right. What's your expectations for them right now as the season continues?
I still think that they have a real chance to be a top 6 seed in the Western Conference. They're off to a good start, so that helps things. We did mention some of their quality wins. They beat Denver, like you said. They beat the Suns twice. And, New Orleans is a good group. They beat them. They beat Miami as well. So they have some good wins on their schedule. I'm also just looking at, like you said, the defense, right? If that could continue, then they're actually a real problem. Because right now they're 6th in defense. And guess what? GP2 is not out there. Gary Payton II, he's not out there right now. And they are playing some really good defense. Another guy I want to mention is Shaedon Sharpe. Okay, he's one of the better rookies in the league. Shout out to Canada. Also, he played with my cousin Jaden Clayton on the Team Canada teams and Team Ontario teams. So a quick shout out there. But he's one of the better rookies in the league. I feel like we've seen the highlights. He's fantastic in terms of athleticism. You know, he could get up, but also his shooting. He's shooting really well right now from downtown, from, you know, the 2-point range, you know, from the field goal range. So he's doing that. If they could get, you know, more progression from him as the season goes along, then they're going to be a problem because he has a high upside, right? A high upside. Nurkic is still there. He's a walking double-double right now, 10th in rebounding. You know, so I really like their group, and we're seeing also valuable minutes. Josh Hart, if we could continue getting that. Nas Little, my guys, North Carolina Tar Heels Nation, stand up, okay? There are good parts all over this roster, and like I said before, I believe in the coaching of Chauncey Billups. So yeah, Crina, I think you should look at the Western Conference and say to yourself, maybe the Portland Trailblazers will be a top 6 seed if this continues. And they're doing this without Dame in the line, like in and out of the lineup so far this season. So
let's say they make the playoffs, like you said.
Yeah.
So last hot take or prediction of the day, can they win a playoff series?
Oh yeah, they can. Depending on matchups, I believe that they can. And why? Dame time. Okay, it's all about Dame time. You already know what it is, man. I put the trust in him, and if he gets like Simons, right? Simons is young. He hasn't really had that playoff experience with big minutes, but if he could step up to the plate, right? He could help out Dame, of course. And like I said, Nurkic, he's a good part inside, and Grant, of course. So they have a good starting lineup. It's just their depth. Can they step up? But no, I really like their squad. Dame, I trust him, like I said. So yeah, I think they could win a series. I think their ceiling, though, second round. That's their ceiling.
Okay, so you heard it here. Portland's hot start to the season, their ceiling, according to Jelani, is second round.
Yeah.
We'll see how that pans out.
See. Hopefully I'm right.
Today's show is all about predictions, and we'll have more predictions, but on the tennis side with Sara Poraria coming up next. So don't go anywhere. But thank you, Jelani, for joining me on Court Time. And yeah, stay tuned for some tennis coming up next. All right, on to some tennis now, and I'm joined by Sara Poraria, my GameStop Bet co-host, and we're here to talk some ATP finals because we're nearing the end of it. Djokovic and Taylor Fritz are both already in the semifinals. They claimed their spots this week, and there's still one more semifinal spot between Tsitsipas and Rublev to fight for the semifinal spot to join Casper Ruud. Just kind of your thoughts on this week in general. I mean, Djokovic we kind of picked as our like safe pick to win this whole thing,
Sure.
but Taylor Fritz is in the semifinals.
Right. I mean, I think I knew Rafa was not going to get there. Of course, it's always tough seeing such a legend kind of decline. I mean, we know he's been injured since August. He's been picking up injuries left, right, and center. And I think it gets to a certain point where age plays a factor with recovery. And I think that's what we're seeing. My hope with him is that he recovers soon and maybe has like one more season of slams that are strong. I'm not saying winning. I'm saying just perform well.
Yeah.
Because we hate to see him. I know he, like, Felix beat him. And in Canada, we're super proud of that. But I also took it as Felix beat an injured Rafa.
Yeah.
So it wasn't the same kind of, you know, fight that we would normally see from him. But yeah, expected that from Rafa. Felix.
Yeah, I know. We were kind of talking about maybe I remember you saying you're like, Felix is going to win the whole thing. And then I was like, let's not get so ahead of ourselves. It seemed like, because in the Paris Masters right before this ATP finals, he did kind of, his level was struggling a little bit. I think he wasn't quite looking like the player that he was in October when he was winning 3 titles in a row.
Yeah.
I don't think it's anything to worry about that much. I think he's had a fantastic year. Like, he won 4 titles this year. He made the quarters of the Australian Open in January. He's like been consistently to quarters and semifinals of tournaments. And yeah, the heater in October was absolutely incredible. So
is it fatigue a little bit? I know he's young, but is it just that he's a little bit tired?
It might be because, the tennis calendar is really long. It's all year. It's 12 months of the year. So I think obviously, especially when you go for basically an entire month without stopping, it's definitely going to catch up to you. I did kind of see a little bit of fatigue when he was playing in his matches. Like, he did beat Rafa, but it didn't feel like you said, like it was an injured Rafa. I felt like there were so many factors within that match itself that I didn't really see. It didn't really feel like he beat Rafa because his level was where it was before. And then even in his match against Taylor Fritz, it was very close. They played 2 tie breaks and then he lost the final set. But to me, it was just that Taylor Fritz was beating Felix at his own game. He was serving big, he was moving really quickly and deliberately, and eventually that's what got Taylor Fritz to play a better match than Felix. And so I think he can learn from this for sure. I think it was good that he made the ATP finals. I think it was a really good experience for him. But I think, you know, his year was absolutely fantastic, and it's only on the rise.
Oh my God, absolutely. Like when I said, you know, if it's because of fatigue and stuff, don't take away from anything that Felix has done this year. And he is still so young. And I think we've spoken about this before as well, that he is the kind of player that learns from his mistakes. So we will be seeing Felix in the near future. And I'm okay with him bowing out of this tournament earlier than maybe expected. We got an Australian Open around the corner. Let's focus on that.
Do you think he could win a Grand Slam next year? Let's go. Hot take. Put you on the spot right now.
Let's go. FELIX AUGER-ALIASSIME will win a Grand Slam in 2023.
There you go. Hot take. I can't wait to actually like go back to this video and see if it actually happens. Gonna bookmark it.
Thank you.
Know, I mean, it could happen.
It seems like it's slowly been on the rise, like him and his career. So I feel like it only makes sense. You know, like you said in October, we saw him win 3 tournaments. He's only been getting better and better, but it is at like a slower pace than, let's say, like Carlitos, out of nowhere, and then he wins. But this almost could be better for Felix in the sense that he might have a elongated career. So we'll see, but I definitely think it could happen, and I don't think it's as hot of a take as we might be making it out to be, because he is a fantastic tennis player.
All right, so that's how we're ending court time today, with our take that FELIX AUGER-ALIASSIME will win a Grand Slam in 2023. We'll definitely make sure to come back to this episode to see if it actually happens. But like you said, Australian Open is right around the corner, and you better be sure that we are going to be here covering it with all the content, and we're going to definitely have FELIX as one of our favorites. But make sure you're tuning into the ATP finals as they're still going on. We have semifinals, and then the final going to be wrapping up this coming weekend. Thanks for tuning into Court Time with me. Make sure you're following Sara Poraria as the World Cup ramps up and her coverage becomes even busier over at room 442. But yeah, I'll have her social media in the description below. Thanks for tuning in, and see you next Friday.